Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another video on the channel. Now, this video is going to be a little different than the normal videos on this channel. This is kind of me, as I've kind of done before, go out of my way to do something different. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about Goodwill. Now, I want to preface this. This video is inspired to a degree from Snivy's 102's video of how I get retro video games for cheap. Good video. Suggest you watch it if you are interested in that sort of stuff. Now, this video, while it is also an inspiration, it is also kind of an experiment and more of like looking at eBay. Not eBay. What am I saying? eBay. My goodness. I'm going to do that a lot in this video. I'm going to be switching between eBay and Goodwill a lot, and it's something that annoys me a lot, and it's like, way brain right. But anyway, we're going to be talking about Goodwill instead of eBay. Because he doesn't really go too much into other things, mostly just eBay. I think Goodwill is one of those points where it's not talked about, and I don't know. He does mention to talk about in the comments if you have something to say, and essentially this video is that, but without putting into comments and actually me making a video over it to give my thoughts on everything and the eBay. There we go again. Goodwill experience. If you don't know what a Goodwill is, I'll probably put this at the very beginning of the video here. Goodwill is a donation site that has been around for a really long time, and is, I think, pretty much in every single state in America. If I'm incorrect, I might be incorrect. Pretty much, Goodwill is a donation site that if you have shit to give and you don't want to bother selling, you don't want to bother with Facebook management, you essentially just give the items to them, and they do however they figure out how the fuck they sell it, essentially, and they have to deal with the mess then, because it is a donation place, but it's also a thrift store. Now, I don't know how many, I haven't really been to or seen with most thrift stores, but for the most part, I don't think there has any that I've seen that is similar to Goodwill, where you can essentially just give them your shit. It is for free, but they take it anyway, regardless, aside from trash, and they try to sell that shit. So, with that out of the way, now, for me, years ago, when I first decided to look up on stuff, I did use eBay before, but a lot has changed since then to then Goodwill until today, and that mostly comes around to the economy of, we're gonna kind of talk about the economy a little bit. It does affect things, it's pretty much affected everything. But the biggest thing, the difference between, let's say, Goodwill, which I think is important enough to talk about, and eBay is the competitive aspect to it, to a degree. And this is kind of where things get a little bit specific and may change on how you want to go about it. So, my first time using eBay, I guess I'll talk about eBay. I bought myself, or I decided to do the auction to go for a Pearl version. I lost, if I remember correctly, I remember I had a Pearl version, I lost it. Don't know why I just lose stuff randomly out of nowhere. It's happened to me before. I lost like a GBA, like an actual Game Boy Advance console that was like sitting on my desk, and it just disappeared one day. Fuck no, who knows what happened. I'm not the only one in the family that has happened to before, and it's just one of those annoying grievances. Hey there, quick insert here. I came back, I checked, I made sure. I made a big mistake during the first initial recordings, and I'm here to pretty much go into detail here. So originally, I thought the Pro version that I bought was in 2020/2019, and that was kind of the big, like, point I was getting into when it came to competition and how there wasn't much of it since I got cheaper, but I was completely incorrect. I didn't even realize I got it in 2022 at that price, at that time, because that was generally when like 2021 2022 was when people went too crazy with old retro Pokemon games. So I was completely incorrect with eBay. So in that scenario, eBay was better than Goodwill. But regardless of that, the main point was that competition wise it was better earlier on, pre-COVID and like that. And then of course I do go into more when it comes to competition and how it's kind of changed along with the economy and all that stuff. But just needed to kind of let you guys in because it's weird cuts, for sure. If I didn't really say anything, regardless, I'm gonna shut up now. I'm gonna let my past self continue on now. But with COVID-19, with the economy, and with everyone trying to find a different way to earn money, whether it's good or bad, I'm talking about resellers here, the competition has gone insanely high. It's kind of the reason why I think he made the video in itself, is to deal with the competition of people trying, like resellers, for example, at the same time find a decently fair price. And that is even with Goodwill. You still will find instances where there's huge competition. But from my experience and from what I've seen online, especially nowadays, Goodwill slept on. I'm just saying that right now. Goodwill is fucking slept on. If you're in the business of repairing old DS systems or DS systems in general, Goodwill, my goodness, you can literally auction a free auction of whatever they push down. So for instance, there's like 5 unusable DS systems. I don't. There's like a range from like the old DS systems to like the DSi, and all of that, even though broken, was pretty much like 13 something, and no one bid for it at all. I don't know the whole like situation with repairing consoles with the DS. I know GBA is really popular, but DS side of things, I don't know where that is right now. I'm tempted to myself to look into it more. I do need to fix some of the DS systems. I have one previously with Goodwill, because I have experience with Goodwill, and I will kind of talk about that more here in the rest of this video. But the main important thing is that, like, it's slept on so much that certain things like that, I don't know who or what or how it is. I assume at this point that there's people that do repair or work on DS systems. $13, even if you can't fully fix the system, use it for spare parts. Aside from the one main negative of Goodwill, that's fucking amazing. My goodness, like I legit seen that like 1 week ago, last week. So it's like there is a lot slept on. Hello, another intersection again. I'm sorry, but dang it, sometimes fate likes to get me wrong sometimes. Like, you're wrong, but okay. Not exactly. In this scenario, I wanted to make sure I got a picture of said, like, to showcase. But the issue was I didn't really mess with it at all, so I can't really look back in the past history. I mean, maybe you could, but I'm not gonna worry about that too much. But this is just a showcase, an example of, like, Goodwill. My brain's being stupid right now. They usually sometimes list out on broken devices in a pack, generally. Now, this is not a good example because in this you have both 3DSs and Game Boy Advances, just GBA in general. GBA is going to be the most sold or likely to be sold for parts compared to like 3DS systems. But there's also 3DS systems here as well. I'm not gonna go too much into this here, but as an example, they do packs, and generally it doesn't usually get bid on a lot. But in this case, you pretty much have two very popular systems that just much more popular than DS for repairs. Granted, I don't think the 3DS is as prepared as compared to the DS systems and the GBA systems. So I think this is the case of people are ignoring the 3DS systems so they can focus on the GBA. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now, and yet again, I'll send you back to my past self on Goodwill. Now, I will say this. There is tough competition. So, when you notice when it's really high competition for several things. 3DS, specifically 3DS, I want to heavily say 3DS because people sleep on the DS so much, which I think you get your buck's worth from a DS, and then getting an SD card that fits in like a DS to fit in the system that has all games ever. That's not too expensive at all, and you could literally live on that for the rest of your life. But that's another topic for another time or a live stream. But the main point is that you can get a lot of your bangs worth if you know what you're doing. And don't get me wrong, the 3DS isn't bad, and I can understand why there's high competition for it. But sometimes other systems do get heavily slept on. I'd say the DS. The DS is probably by far the most slept on console. They can do backwards compatibility if it has a game park to it. And then you have like a huge library you can get. I know you could argue piracy, but then again, no, yeah, probably your best investment to go for if you get a DS, honestly, at this point. Not gonna explain where, you can probably find out for yourself, but just know that that is a really best option to go for. But going back to the competitive side, 3DS, somewhat Pokemon. I will say this, I got a Y under 40 easily. So while I do say there is competition for Pokemon game, it's more so the older generations. Sometimes I've seen some extravagant things from like Sun. So it's generally, if there's multiple games, Pokemon games available in the auction house here. So we're talking about auction house here. We're talking about the Goodwill online auction here. Okay, I probably don't like, this is the only kind of way I think. You can probably buy stuff. You can buy stuff through the auction house as well, but this is where you can get a lot of the stuff. For the most part, it's easy to find. But generally, it's not consistent where all the games are going to be, regardless, like a certain degree, a certain price. Just because, since there's multiple auctions, because again, people sleep on Goodwill. I have to preface that. There's not as much competition, meaning there's a higher chance for you to get something from Goodwill much cheaper than, let's say, the auction house of not Facebook, marketplace, but the eBay. Way easier. So it's not generally concise because there's so many auctions. You're gonna be looking at the top head first, then what's later down below. And because the auctions ends at all over the place, generally there's a good chance you can probably get the item a lot lower price than you imagined. Now, aside from the 3DS and to a degree Pokemon games, there's obviously certain games that are going to be more popular than others, but the last other scenario that I have seen happen when it comes to the auction houses in Goodwill that was stupidly, heavily competitive was a lot that had over, get this, 80 plus DS games. Some kid was super lucky and got almost a crap ton of games for the DS. I think some of them were repeats, so it was likely like a family of kids that probably got like similar games type of thing. It's funny because I did try to go for it. The game lot had Spectrobes and Fossil Fighters, 2 games I loved completely. Go check those games out specifically. But I decided to go for it. Just to give you it. It was like maybe about 1 to 2 days left to it. The original price is probably around 50 at the time, so I decided to go to $100 per se, or roughly around there. If it went over, I was not going to go plan on going any further than that. So I was kind of curious to see where it would have ended. In a 24-hour period, of course, the auction wasn't done by the time I checked again in a 24-hour period. It doubled my price. Not Goodwill forcing change like that. No. People outbid me double the price I did. So it was probably by the time the auction, I would say safely $250. Now, to me, that is 100% reseller material. So I think there is, to a degree, competition to Goodwill, especially resellers. But for the most part, it's not as competitively high as from my experiences with eBay. Now, I'm not a reseller at all. You probably would have already known by now, especially because I've been doing content for like 7+ years at this point. I've been streaming for a long time. It would become kind of obvious if I was a reseller at this point. I know with this hacking for Goodwill and just we'll kind of get to the point that point later, but the items I did get for experimentation here, if it's extra, if it works, I'll probably resell it, but like $5 or less is probably my thought process. We'll see type of thing, because there's no guarantees on anything what I say in this video, but that's probably something I will do, because there's no point in me having extra copies, and I'm not like most resellers that are trying to sell it at a exorbitant price point. Regardless, while there is that to note, competitively wise, that's probably one of the big issues that's still kind of there, but it isn't as bad. Now, the biggest issue I would say is connected to the amount of money you pay. Now, you might be saying, well, didn't you just say that you got really cheap deal? In the case of, like, you know, the Y version I mentioned, less than $40, that's pretty fucking good, I would say. I would say that Y would probably be closer to 60 to 80 is my guess. Especially given what I've seen from other block auction houses. Well, the thing about eBay, not eBay, what the fuck? Again, Goodwill, is that Goodwill, while it has less competition and you're more likely to pay less, it is by far worse than Facebook Marketplace. Even though there is limitations to Facebook Marketplace, like it's more likely going to be getting something from your area than, you know, buying from afar, you know, is the shipping price. The shipping price is so extreme, it bitch slaps Amazon in two. I don't know how the best way to explain it without just saying whenever you win the auction house of that price, always put that price and always add $15 to it. Always add $15 to it. That is your average of the price you're gonna pay to get that item. So for instance, if you got something that was pretty much rounded up to $10, you will always be paying $25 to get that price. And this is not without doing donation to Goodwill, as it is $15 on average when it comes to buying stuff and getting shipped to your house. Yeah, that is literally the average. That is the only thing setting it apart from eBay, from whatever, is that the shipping prices are extreme. And if you go to Reddit and like that, I think most people believe that it's because of how archaic, I guess is the best way to say it, their systems are. And the fact that that's just kind of like a normal thing with them. And that's the only reason why most people don't do Goodwill. I know there's a lot to mention there, and you could probably be like, competitive is back and forth. When in fact it's like a guaranteed high amount of money, at least $10+ to ship an item that probably would be like maybe $5 or less, should have been, just kind of showcases the issue. And because of how it works, you cannot put the items together. I'll say this, if they are from the same store, 2 different auctions, they are automatically put them together. There's certain limits and all that jazz. But if it's from different stores, you have to do each one separately, meaning the money, yeah, it gets to the point where you're being bankruptcy just with 10 items alone. Over exaggeration there, but the amount of money that it takes to just ship the item to your house through online is $15. So my suggestion is that if you use Goodwill, try your best to do it from the store that you're close to. You can pick it up. Pick it up, you don't have to worry about that extra $15, just the auction itself, and you can get it. So, best suggestion when it comes to Goodwill, if you can, be able to pick it up. If not, expect to pay $15+ more dollars. On average, it's generally, this is taking into consideration the state tax, the handling, and the shipping, mind you, okay? So, generally, it's $10 to $15, shipping wise. So it's because of that high shipping cost that a lot of people, for the most part, don't use Goodwill. But people still use Goodwill because the chance to get a good deal is way more dramatic. Like I said earlier, when it comes to Goodwill, Goodwill is slept on heavily. Unless this video completely changes that. That is something to take into consideration if you decide to go with... We're gonna talk about some good things and some bad things. Obviously, shipping cost being extremely expensive. So, with this in mind, I decided to do an experiment. I know I kind of talked about it briefly before, but I decided to, as much as I can, go through Goodwill. I will be doing a stream in the near future on my channel, Psycam11. I think it'd be kind of obvious. I think that's mostly obvious for most people. They usually have their same name on their Twitch as well as YouTube. Where there's some occasions that probably isn't the case, but hey, you know now, it really shouldn't be that hard for you. I will be doing a Goodwill unpacking, essentially. I already have about 90% of said bought items already here, ready to go. I'm waiting for the last few things to ship, get them, and then I will stream on live the unboxing of the items. I will test them out. I will showcase to you and talk about essentially the experience for it. For the most part, I'm just saying this right now, the obvious stuff, it's straightforward. I didn't really have any issues going through the auction house. It's pretty simple. There's not much to issue with that. There has been past experiences that I will be talking about on the stream itself from Goodwill. I will be making it into a video on YouTube, so if you guys if you miss out on the video, on the live stream, my bad, it'll be on YouTube. So you guys wouldn't really necessarily be missing out. It'll essentially be a part 2 of this video talking about Goodwill. As pretty much like a continuation, or at least an experimentation to see how it compares to like Facebook Marketplace and or eBay, obviously based off of Snivy 102's video. There might be some things that I probably miss out or forget upon for sure. 100%. I know there's some things I did think about while, you know, in the front of the camera here that I just completely forgot about. That I was like, what? Gosh dang it, what am I fucking forgetting? But yeah. There'll be more to talk about, probably in the live stream if I do remember it. And when it comes to like doing this sort of stuff, you gotta be mindful, and you have to be top of your game. You have to be consistent. I know some people use bots to help out, but not all bots are going to help you at all for everything, unless someone does make a bot for it. But that's to be seen. I don't think there really has been, but who knows? I don't really look into that stuff anyway. So, the thing is, the general gist of this video. Goodwill is a lot better than eBay, and it's something to look into, but it might not be for everyone, especially the shipping. You gotta be mindful of where it's located, and if you have the money to do the shipping as well as the actual pricing. The biggest thing being the shipping cost is probably going to be more expensive than some of the items you get. There's a good chance for that to happen, to showcase the how competitive it is and how likely it is to get something through, let's say, Goodwill versus eBay with resellers. A lot of people, there might be resellers on that site, but compared to like eBay and other sites, it's day and night. So I do suggest Goodwill, but just note that these few possible issues, mostly referring to shipping and handling cost. Now, the last thing I will mention here at the very tail end of this video is the policy when it comes to, let's say if you decide to do this with the auction house. I think you can do it as a guest. Maybe I think you have to have an account. You probably have to have an account for sure to be able to auction house and stuff like that. After you make the account, it's pretty simple. Whatever you put in, if you win or lose, you win or lose. If you lose, you don't have to worry about anything else. If you win, they pretty much give you a 7-day period to pay for it to be shipped to your house. When that 7-day period ends, I don't know if this is always the case. This is something I also have been testing on the side here. Is that you have an extra 3 days as a, like, you would say on the thing that it's a late pay period thing on it, and it will say you will have 3 more days, and then you get a check mark on your account. Almost like, YouTube with demonetization. With a copyright strike. It's not the demonetization, but so the only way you won't be able to continue doing auction houses, I want to make this note, so be careful, be flipping careful. Just don't go fun and happy and trying to do all the auctions in the house, because they do have at least sensible rules when it comes to trolls. Okay. 1, you can only do 15 auction houses at a time. So if you have more than 15, you cannot go for any more. And obviously if you get 3. If you get 3 marks on your account is instantly banned. Now, originally, this wasn't always the case. This has kind of like been back and forth. I haven't really gotten like a firm confirmation. I think there is a like sort of future feature where it's like if you get like a mark and then some time has passes, essentially that mark, while still being on the account, doesn't stay in effect. I think it does disappear after a certain point. So I'm not entirely certain, you know. But after those 3 marks, your account is completely deleted and you cannot do anything else. So for instance, if you miss up on 3 payments and you're planning to pay for other things, well, shit up a creek, you can't anymore. So I strongly suggest that in the sense of this auction house, be safe and considerate and be mindful of these simple things like the $15, because it starts to really rack up over time. And just obviously be mindful not to go spam heavy like I did to make this like part 2 of this video, just talking about my experiences with Goodwill as well as the unboxing, just to showcase the quality of such used items. Obviously this is not like reseller, or like I should say reseller, but more like DK Oldies, where they just refurbish items and make it all well and good. No, that doesn't happen. Okay, that doesn't happen with Goodwill, and that's the other point to mention that I'm just thinking of now. Again, there'll be some things I'll probably forget that I want to mention. I'll probably mention it during the stream or / video that will be up. That's another point, is that yes, the quality is going to stay intact. What you see is, for the most part, what you get. But that is not always the case. So there's also the other possibility where shit happens, shit gets destroyed, you get a worse product for one reason or another. Either due to human negligence or shit happens. So, for the most part, though, I haven't had any issues. For the most part. That doesn't mean I have not had any. Again, more stuff I'll talk about at a later date, especially during live streams. There's a lot I do want to mention. Regardless, I think that's about it for today's video. And hopefully you guys did enjoy. Make sure you like, subscribe, / follow. Mention below. It's probably not Discord, but on the channel there should be a Discord link. And of course, check out my Twitch. I usually stream on Twitch. Regardless, that wraps it up. Be safe and be healthy. And I will see you all in another video, which could be Arknights related, but it most likely will be the part 2 for this video, talking about Goodwill. Anyway, until then,